a hoop down low and then play awesome defense, something that Amari Stoudemire really never could. But just to have the pieces together, Eric Gordon as one of the premier six men in the NBA, Trevor Ariza, who's always going to have a great 3-and-D guy when you have him on your team, and then just have the depth that they have with guys like Gerald Green and Luke Bob Mute off the bench. So, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating series. I see Houston probably winning it in 6. I just think that Utah will definitely get a game at home, but if Ricky Rubio does not come back sooner rather than later and does not play up to the way he was playing in Oklahoma City, I think there's just too much firepower for Houston to let Utah score 120 points on them a couple of times.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's going to be either a Game 6 or Game 7, but it's going to be a fantastic series to watch, and lots of storylines along the way.
Yeah. So only one NBA game tonight, which is was kind of depressing for me. I'm kind of getting used to the 2 games a night. Before there were 3 or 4 games when we had in the first round. Last night we saw a couple of amazing playoff games. The first game of the Cavaliers and Raptors, the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Toronto Raptors 113-112 in overtime. I mean, what else did you expect? It's Cleveland, it's Toronto, it's LeBron James, and he's making the Toronto Raptors his sons once again, even though Toronto is now the number 1 overall seed in the East for the first time in their franchise's history. And then the Warriors, Steph Curry coming back and really igniting Oracle and able to pull away from the Pelicans for a 5-point win last night. Now, Bobby, let's talk about the Cavaliers and Raptors first. LeBron James really had to do almost things that LeBron hasn't had to do maybe since his first run in Cleveland, back when he carried that terrible team with Anderson Varejao and Sasha Vucevic, guys like that, Eric Snow, to the NBA Finals against the San Antonio Spurs, and where they got swept. That's when he was still a young guy and didn't have the jump shot he does now. And now he has to put up 34 points, 35 points over a playoff series just to beat the Indiana Pacers in the first round. And look, hey, I'm a big fan of Victor Oladipo and what he's been able to do. But the team that LeBron James has around him, I don't know if you agree with this or not, and I know this is kind of the prevailing wisdom, is that this is his worst supporting cast since, maybe in the last 10 years for LeBron. Is that something that you agree with? Is this something that is much more dependent on LeBron than in years past?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And the way that LeBron has been playing this season, where he's playing like he's 21 again. Like, just to see him not be injured going into this season, every single year, he's at least dealt with some kind of big injury that has influenced his season. He's been very healthy. He's been able to get on the court and really lead this team that is kind of going in multiple directions. We saw deadline, all the moves they made just to refresh the organization, to kind of put a reset button and push it and just start anew, because it was falling apart. And the only thing holding it together is really the play of LeBron James. And then to see him in this postseason put the team on his shoulders like he has, it's been very impressive, especially for someone at his age. I'm not saying he by any means is dropping off or regressing by any means, but he is getting up there in age where fatigue, and if you really think about it, LeBron has a total of what? I think it was something like a full season or close to it worth of playoff and finals games that he has gone through in his career. So you add that to the fact that he's playing at such a high level still, and he's played more time in the playoffs than any other player. It's really an impressive feat. And I don't think we give LeBron as much credit as we should, because, for one, his offseason's much shorter than everyone else's for the amount of NBA finals he's gone to over the last 10 years. And just the fact that he continues to be as productive as he is. Now, saying all that, back to your question about is this roster less, because this team is just not set up, in my opinion, to make a run in the finals. I think they put way too much an emphasis on LeBron's playing ability. So would I like to be wrong? I mean, for LeBron's sake, yes, I would like for him to get a little more help. As an NBA fan, I would like to see the Cavs maybe not make it to the NBA playoffs because, 4 straight years now of Warriors-Cavs? It gets a little monotonous. So, as an NBA fan, I would like to see this team crumble, but as a sports fan, to marvel in the fact that LeBron's able to do what he's doing with the supporting cast around him, I think is just more in light of what an amazing player and how lucky we are to have LeBron right now while we still do.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that question specifically is if he had the worst supporting cast since that 2017 he took to the finals. I don't know if I necessarily 100% believe it, just because what we saw last night. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Toronto Raptors by a point in overtime, and yes, LeBron did his usual amazing thing. Only shot 12 for 30, which is un-LeBron-like, but he had 26 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks. I mean, he was a monster all over the floor, played 47 minutes as a 33-year-old in his 15th season in the league. But you also saw guys step up that haven't been stepping up as much throughout the postseason, and mainly J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson. And I think the real issue here is that Tyronn Lue is not a good NBA head coach. And I think part of the reason why Tyronn Lue is, one, still there, and two, there in the first place is because of LeBron. And LeBron, has had his run-ins with coaches. He's had the Mike Brown saga twice. He had the David Blatt saga where he didn't really respect anything David Blatt said, and then David Blatt, got fired, ended up going back to Europe, and I think he won a European championship literally the year after that. So it's going to be a hard task to be the coach of LeBron James, given that he's almost like this enterprise himself. He has, I don't think it's the Clutch Sports Agency. It's one of the agencies that signs, guys like Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith to huge deals because they're his boys and they're his teammates, and he wants to help them out, and yet they are guys who are sitting on the bench for a majority of these playoff games. So that was the prevailing wisdom kind of coming into last night's game as well. They got these new players in that midseason trade. They got George Hill. They got Jordan Clarkson. They got Rodney Hood. Those are guys that are going to be huge for them in the postseason. And those guys in last night's game, George Hill, 2 for 7 for 4 points in 28 minutes. Jordan Clarkson, 12 minutes, 2 for 7 shooting, 5 points. And Rodney Hood, 16 minutes, 1 for 5 shooting, 2 points. The guys that have been there for a while, at least, years past, J.R. Smith, 36 minutes, 6 for 11 shooting, 5 for 6 from deep, 20 points. And Tristan Thompson played 26 minutes, scored 14 points, and grabbed 12 rebounds. So I think a lot of this, LeBron has been dragging these sorry guys up down the court against Indy and now is going to be doing against Toronto. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that LeBron almost has, this. And look, I like the guy, so I don't want to make this sound like I'm bashing him because I truly think he is the greatest player of all time. But he has this ego when it comes to getting coaches that this coach has to be exactly what he wants and needs, and it has to kind of succumb to what he wants and needs. And it can't be a guy who comes in that doesn't have a track record like David Blatt, who, may have a track record in the European leagues, but for LeBron, the European leagues is like AAA baseball. He doesn't want someone coming in there and telling him what to do when, he's 5 years older than LeBron and he hasn't won anything in the NBA. So he picks Tyronn Lue, who's an NBA player, but still, I don't think Tyronn Lue really knows exactly what he's doing because the entire time he's been there, LeBron's kind of be like, hey, Ty, let's do this. Let's start this guy. Let's do this. And so Tyronn kind of took it upon himself. Hey, Tristan Thompson isn't playing well. Tristan Thompson, he's having this whole cheating scandal with one of the Kardashians. Let's not really play him. And then all of a sudden he started playing him in Game 7 against the Pacers. He played well. And now Tristan Thompson is the same guy they signed to that 5-year, $82 million contract a few years back. J.R. Smith comes out of dusts the cobwebs off and knocks down huge threes in the overtime in fourth quarter last night. And, someone they picked up before the season, Jeff Green, played pretty well for 4 for 4 shooting at 16 points. Kevin Love, 3 for 13 shooting, only 7 points, so he did not play well. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is that the supporting cast might not be the problem. I think it's the consistency. I think it's the fact that the guys that are playing the Cavaliers, 2 through 14, besides LeBron James, do not know night in and night out who's starting, who's going to play 20 minutes, who's going to play 2, and if they're going to be called upon to do, things for their team, and if they are going to be guys who are looked at as key cogs of this team, or if they're just going to be there waving a towel and supporting LeBron and company. So I think LeBron, given all of that, he is going to get past the Toronto Raptors because, one, he's LeBron James and he's head and shoulders above better than anyone on the Raptors, and we can talk about that maybe in a second. But I just think that's the supporting cast for LeBron is better than maybe people are kind of having the narrative shape around them, and that's mainly just because that Tyronn Lue has mismanaged the situation so badly that guys don't exactly know when to contribute, and their minutes are getting yanked around game to game. So yeah, I think Cleveland they almost have like a sleeping horse still in. And I know that's been kind of the prevailing story for Cleveland the last few years. They don't try super hard in the regular season and they come in the playoffs and do it. But I think almost like they're doing it now. Like, okay, everyone wake up. We're in the second round. We're playing Toronto. They are afraid of us. Let's get things going. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the fact is, I still think the main emphasis goes on what LeBron can do. If he remains healthy, they could easily. Without him, this team, I honestly don't even think it'd be a playoff team without him. So, yes, I can see your point as to where certain players have been making an impact, even though the sum of its parts really make it not as efficient as he has had in past years. But I really just think it's all because LeBron stayed healthy and the way he's playing now. I wouldn't put it on those players as a whole because I don't think they're even a playoff team without him.
Sure, that's definitely true. I think LeBron is the key cog here. I don't think it's – if we look back at the Cleveland team from 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I think people would be like, oh, my God, they were starting Eric Snow at point guard, a guy who could shoot, 35% on his best day. So they definitely have more weapons than they've had back in the day, and I just think that the mismanagement of those minutes and those players' egos is probably the main cause as to why Cleveland has struggled, or at least struggled through a 7-game series. So their opponent, the Toronto Raptors, we talked about a little bit. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan are still the two studs there. Jonas Valanciunas is a good young center still, and then they have really a bench that has come out as one of the league's best in Pascal Siakam, CJ Miles, Jacob Poeltl, Fred VanVleet, and DeLon Wright. When I look top to bottom, okay, it's maybe good that your 10th guy is better than Cleveland's 10th guy on their best days, and maybe your 6th guy is better than Cleveland's 6th guy on the best day. But in the playoffs, when the possessions are so focused and so intense and everyone is giving their 100%, you need to have someone on the opposing team that you are at least about the same level at, or just your talent level overall is so much more overwhelming than the other team that it doesn't matter if you have a LeBron when you have just a cacophony of guys who can do things better from 2 to 12. And I don't think Toronto has that. Look, I know DeMar DeRozan has become a very good player. I know he's a multiple-time All-Star, and Kyle Lowry is a very good player, multiple-time All-Star. DeMar DeRozan, if he's on my favorite team, I think if it were just him or it were just Kyle Lowry, the Raptors would probably be a high 30-win team. And look, I'm not trying to put the shade on them saying that they're never going to ever win anything. I just think at this point in their careers, look, DeMar DeRozan's 28. Kyle Lowry is on the wrong side of 30. He's 32. They kind of are what they are going to be at this point. I don't think there's going to be a Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid type of breakout from them where it's just all of a sudden they jump that extra level. I would pick Victor Oladipo over either one of those guys. And I just think that kind of highlights why the ceiling for Toronto has been make it to the playoffs and then get to Cleveland and then bust. I don't think either of these guys has, whether it's the talent, the skill, the will, the fortitude whatsoever, to be able to take down a guy as talented as LeBron if he has some talented teammates around him. What do you think they have that ability? Do you think they can combine forces and finally take down a guy like LeBron?
I think, to your point, I do think that there aren't enough pieces in place for this team to really rise up and win a championship. I do agree with you that DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, even Serge Ibaka, Valanciunas. I just